Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandrainboots.com, and today I am sharing a Dollar Tree Christmas gnome inspiration. These are a few videos I've shared here on the channel. Here are some previews. Now I can't edit these out, so you might see some asking for subscribe and all that jazz I have in my introductions, but I hope you enjoy this project. I'd love to hear what you think about them. Let's get started. Hi there friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rainboots, and today we're making a quick 5-minute Dollar Tree Grinch Gnome. If you can find these supplies at the Dollar Tree, just boop! Let's make him together. Stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here, and we have a new Facebook group. Please join us over there. I'll put the link below. Now, as for supplies, we're going to be using a very tall sock. This is like a men's dress sock. Any extras, I chose lamb's wool fleece. I found this fuzzy pillow at the Dollar Tree. You can look in the home section or the toys. And then I'm using red felt. You can buy that at the Dollar Tree as well. Okay, so I'm using a half a cup of poly beads to start our sock gnome. So the reason I'm using black is because we're just going to make a nose out of the sock. So to get the sock part of it all filled up, we're gonna rip open that pillow, or cut it, don't rip it. And then we're gonna shove a couple of handfuls in. Now we do want something pretty dense, and I know you can see through it, but don't be fooled, you won't be able to. After you figure out your height, and that's 100% your choice, we're gonna tie it off, and then we're going to put the dress sock around 2 times. So you can see it, there's once, and then we pull it tight over that top piece, and then we flip it over again. See that? It's very nice. It needs a lint brushing. It's so bad. Oh, I did lint brush that on camera. Look at me go. All right, so then we're just going to measure how long for our wrap around body, because we do want all of his little body to be green. He's the Grinch. All right, so to make the nose, I'm using under both layers of the sock. I'm just going to add a little polyfill, and I'm going to scrunch up a little bit of that, and then use a rubber band or an embroidery thread or a piece of embroidery thread or twine to make that nose. It's going to be covered. All right. Oh, yeah. Okay. Lint brush again. And now we're going to start covering it. So all I'm going to do is drop it. All I'm going to do is wrap it around. I'm going to find where my nose is, and then I'm going to cut the fabric. Like you can see, if you pull it apart, just cut a little hole in the fabric, and then you can just tuck that nose right through. It's Dollar Tree. This is not high quality materials we're using, so trust me. Hold gently or it will rip. So now I'm just going to be securing this all the way around. You can see my, I'm just making the bottom flat, and then I'm just going to do this all the way around. Now, if you cannot find, so I should say this, if you cannot find the green pillow or anything like that, you can use, they have these green car wash mitts. Also at the Dollar Tree, they have stuffed animals, and a lot of them will have these weird, like, do you need a green rabbit? No, but you can make a Grinch with it. So just look in the toy section. I find some pretty cool stuff over there. Okay, so now I'm just going to make sure I get this all on and cut off any of the excess. Save that, because I'm sure I'm going to use it later. I don't know for what yet, but eventually. Okay, so now for the top, we're just going to make sure we fold it over. So we secure the top piece, and then just fold this over, and looky, here comes Cookie. Very similar to our Max gnome that we made here on the channel, if you'd like to make this little Grinch guy a partner. Okay, so I'm using a piece of the felt, a red felt. Now the square, or the felt, comes in different sizes from the Dollar Tree. This is just what I had, but they do have red and green felt this time of year. And because all of our sock gnomes are different, it's hard to make a pattern. So I'm showing you how to make your very own hat. It's a slouchy hat. It's super easy. You're going to figure out the width plus a little bit for seam allowance, and you're going to cut a square. So here you go. Here's your square. And then kind of square it off. Try to square it off a little bit. And then you see mine is not squared off. So there we go. We got to make sure that it's squared off enough that it's even. And so you're going to start from the base about 2 inches up. That'll give us a nice little start. And then you're just going to cut a triangle piece all the way to that tippy top edge. And then I am going to trim up my messes, because this is real time, guys. This is me messing up. I mess up a lot. Yesterday I made a standing sock gnome, which I hope to share with you soon, and I burned my finger so bad I had to stop. Ouch. So be careful when you're securing this edge. There you go. I trimmed up the bottom because I had a wonky little bit. And then I'm just trimming about 2.5 maybe inches of the lamb's wool fleece. You can use fur. You can use anything you have. Chenille yarn is really, really good as a trim as well. And I just measured how the width I kind of estimated. And then the first thing I did was I glued down the bottom first because I figure it's easy. So you're just going to roll it over. Isn't that easy? That's how I roll. Oh, that was a pun. Haha. Okay. Anyway, so we're just going to cut off the excess. Make sure we glue down these two little back pieces here. And then I'm going to secure the top pieces. There you go. All the way around. There we go. Okay. Flip the top back. There we go. And so I'm going to make a little pom-pom out of that same material, but you can use a regular pom-pom. If you're new here, a pom-pom is literally just a square of fabric folded in on itself, rubbed in between your fingers, and stuck on the end of a gnome hat. Ooh, I'm feisty today, friends. I don't know why. Maybe it's the burn on my finger. All right, so we're going to put our little gnome hat on, and I always secure the nose down first because I think that's such a feature of the gnomies. And then we're just going to turn him over, flip him, and you don't have to worry if the hat flips up because it's felt. You're just going to secure the back. I would secure the back in a couple of places just because felt isn't as pliable as fabric, especially the less expensive felt that I'm using. All right, so look and see how I folded it over there. I folded it down to the side and tucked the back under to produce this kind of look. And you're done. This is it. What do you think about this gnome? Let me know in the comments below. Please join our Facebook group. And as always, thank you for being here. Please like and subscribe to Ruffles and Rainboots for more crafty fun. Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandrainboots.com, and today we're using the Dollar Tree tree forms to make some adorable gnome tree toppers. We're going to make two styles, this guy who's an all-in-one complete, and this guy who you can remove the hat and tuck the nose and hat inside for storage. If you'd like to make them, just boop and boop. Stick around. As always, please give this video a like so I know you're here crafting with me. It also helps me with this YouTube algorithm. So here is the full view of this guy. You can see his hat comes back to a point, uneven because of me. And then this guy who his hat actually comes off and can be tucked inside. Isn't that handy? All right, so to get started, we're going to use any of the tree forms available at the Dollar Tree or Dollar General. We're just going to make sure we can remove whatever's on them. So I'm going to be using these two tinsel trees, anything for a nose, wood rounds, dowel caps, or even fleece with a little bit of polyfill. I'll show you that method. I'm going to be using Mongolian fur in a 3-inch pile and an X-Acto knife and cutting mat. For my beards, I'm going to use a detail glue gun, but you can use a full size, and then 2 different colors of fleece, not felt. And the reason is because fleece is way more forgiving and a little more durable than felt. First step, we're going to remove the tinsel. Now I did this 2 ways. I took the time to take wire cutters and remove every single one of these little nubbies, which I'm not going to make you watch. But I did both methods of removing all of them and leaving them on. Leave them on. There's no difference. But I will tell you, I did this where I tried to cover it with just the fleece. It did not work. No matter how many layers, it still showed. So while you're at the Dollar Tree, go ahead and grab some poster board. You can get 2 for $1, and then you're just going to roll it over a little bit so it has a nice curve, and then glue it onto your tree form. We just need it to cover the middle and then have a little bit at the top we can form into a nice stiff piece that our fleece will adhere to. All right, so I'm not going to make you watch all this, but I am going to show you, I'm putting a generous portion of hot glue both on the paper and on the form. And then I'm just gonna cut this down. It doesn't have to be pretty, it's literally gonna be covered. But the one thing I will say is that don't leave an overhang on the paper on the bottom. Be sure to actually trim that right up to the edge so that we don't have any creasing or crumbling over time. All right, so I'm gonna remove my mess here, but I wanna make sure we adhere this poster board right around this edge. So I am gonna show you on the next one. I broke the form. I'm just so strong. That's not true. But it doesn't matter what it looks like. Again, we're just going to cover the form with this fleece. So I'm using about a 1/2 yard of fleece. I have no idea how much this is. Doesn't take a ton amount. But you do need sort of a square, and that's because we're going to just glue it directly onto this cone by rolling it on. And then you're going to cut it so we have a little bit extra at the bottom. I would say 2 inches will be more than enough. Try and make your seam straight, otherwise you have to cut it later like I do right here and try and make it straight. Yeah, you can only do the bottom if you would like, if you're attaching the hat. But I get asked a lot about how to cover a cone, so I'm going to share this video with those people who email me. So I made sure that tip was secure and pretty solid, and then I'm moving to the bottom, which I'm just going to add hot glue to the fleece, and then that way when I press it up under, it will adhere both to the form and to the poster board. I do that all the way around. There's no need to cut or split the fabric at the bottom. And I thought if you did that, it would actually wear out faster over time because the pieces of tree will adhere to those and yank those off. For the beard on this red one, I am actually covering the seams, so I'm going to cut and show you 2 different beards. Always with faux fur, you're going to put it face down, you're going to make sure the pile is all pointing down, and then you're going to size your beard. I'm using a nearly wraparound beard for this guy, just caught in a simple rectangle. Do keep in mind that we want the fur to be at the edge of the bottom and not hanging over the bottom, just for making it look nice and finished. And actually, you don't have to do that. Don't listen to me. I'm just making suggestions. All right, so as you can imagine, we're just going to glue this on with a very, very generous amount of hot glue. Yeah, very generous. Now for the hat, easiest hat ever. So you need to decide where your hat is going to be placed upon your gnome, and then wrap your fabric around it. That's it. Add about 2 inches, maybe 1.5 inches on the short end to this, and make a cut in your fabric exactly where that was, and then make a note of how high you need to cut your fabric. You can see I have a little extra piece up there. Doesn't matter. We're gonna not use that, but I'm gonna make sure I understand how high and how wide to cut, and then I'm just gonna cut it. Now let me know if you like this style of tutorial down below, which is mixing the sped up stuff that's repetitive with the real-time version. I'm trying to come to a happy medium to please everybody. All right, so for this, you're going to fold over your rectangle, have a 2-inch rise, and then cut it all the way up, leaving about 1/4 inch so you have a nice flat bit at the top we can roll into a cone. We're going to put this just off center. It doesn't have to be too far off center, so we're just going to make sure that it lines up at the top into a nice pretty cone right here, because that's where we're starting. We're going to glue the hat directly to the piece we covered, making sure we wrap it all the way around and it comes to a nice pretty point. If yours doesn't come to a point, put a bell up there or some holly or something. You can hide it. All right, so I split the fur to its fabric backing and add my 1-inch round bead with hot glue. So this is actually a 1-inch wood round, not bead, so it has no holes. You can use beads, you can use pom-poms, you can use ping pong balls, anything you'd like. I'm gonna show you another version for a nose in just a second. But I'm going to glue on this nose right on the brim of the hat first before I start tugging. Make sure that's dry because we don't want it to move. For the bottom part of the cone we wrapped at the top, we're going to add glue directly to the fleece. Make sure you don't get it in the beard material. And then you're just going to pull that so it hits the back of our gnome in the center. And then roll this around, making sure that this one is a little bit neat, making sure that your edge is, you know, mostly vertical. I ended up tugging mine a bit too hard, so I'll show you if you do that. Don't worry. If you miscut, don't worry. We can still make it work. All right. So all the way down, making sure it's secure before moving on. So you see here, I pulled way too hard, so mine's legit tight. And what I'm gonna do is just glue it till it matches up on this point here. And then I'm gonna cut the rest off till it comes to a point. I didn't get it exact, but I was happy with it. Seeing as how this is like a 10 to 12 minute craft, so. All right, so you can see right there is a little overlap. I'm just gonna glue the hat all the way down around the back, and then on the front, whoo, it needs a brushing. All right, on the front, lift up the hat and secure this right. If you can get it to the body, that's better than securing it to the fur, but whichever works for you. And then I just added a little bit of pine decoration, a pine cone, and a little sprig of berries. Give him a little zhuzhing, and this guy is done. I like him. He fits on both of my trees, meaning the big one and the little needle trees, so that's good. For the second one, I'm just going to show the differences that I did. Number one, I left all those nubs on. Number two, I did actually make sure I cut off anything that was extending from the bottom, wrapped it, made sure I glued it, but look what I found. I broke it. So it's a lot skinnier than my other one. Again, it fits on both of the big tree and the little needle one. So I did end up cutting that piece off so it wouldn't snag anything, and just made sure I secured it down really well with hot glue before I did the exact same stuff we did before. We wrapped the cone, securing it to the poster board, making sure we get this top edge in. So because this one, I actually left a little extra material on this one. I don't know if it was a good idea or a bad idea, but I figured it was going to be a great stopping point for the hat. So you can see I make it into a little cone shape, but instead of cutting it all off, I'm going to glue on a little bit extra nubby thing at the top instead of cutting that off. And I'm going to glue it down so it's flat. And then for the back edge, or the back seam, I just folded over about 1/4 to 1/2 inch and then made that pretty, because again, this one is the removable hat one, and I don't know, I just thought it was a better idea. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do any of this. This is just suggestions. All right, so we're going to secure that all the way down the back and then do the bottom like we did before, adding a generous portion of hot glue directly to the fleece so that it will adhere both to the form and the poster board. For this hat, it's going to be even easier. We're just going to make sure we have a nice generous width where our nose is going to be over our body, and then we're going to identify the top. Now on this one, you're going to cut sort of a rounded, how do I say that? It's a rounded triangle. So you're also going to cut a rise. So you can see here, I'm just cutting the other strip of the fabric here and then over. So you see that's a very generous rise. And what this will do is it will allow for a nice slouch look. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut it all the way up. And I end up fixing my hack job that I did here, but I'm going to, on the wrong side of the fabric, flip up and give this a brim. Number one, because I want the nose to adhere really well. Number two, because I accidentally used the selvage edge with the holes in it. So, all right, so I trimmed up and made it nice and pretty, which you don't have to do. Put right sides together and glued that top seam. Now, before I turned it inside right sides out, I did yank on it and make sure nothing would bust through. Slip it on the body, and here I just cut a sort of rounded off tall V. For my beard, it's a much smaller beard, but I'm going to tuck it up right up under the hat after I've get an idea where I want it. And then I'm just going to glue that down, making sure I don't get any glue in the fur. For a nose, I'm just going to take a rectangle, fold it in quarters, and then cut an oval. Look, it's not even. But it works, okay? It's gonna end up cute. All right, so I'm taking unknotted embroidery thread, a needle, and then I'm starting on the outside of the nose, about 1/2 inch away from the edge. I'm going to do a running stitch all the way around. You can gather this with fleece and a twine wrap, or even an elastic that you secure with twine. But I just find that you can control the scrunch a lot better if you sew it like this. And I think it's a really cute, wide, boopable, and honkable nose. All right. So I'm not going to make you watch me do this like at this speed, because I sew at snail's pace. So once you go all the way around, you're going to make sure you exit at the same place or on the same side you started, right next to the stitch you started. You're going to fill it with a little bit of polyfill and then yank. And when you yank them, it produces a nice little oval. Knot it off. I'm going to add a little blush to mine because I'm using sort of a cream color. I don't have a light pink or peach bit of fleece, so I'm just going to add a little blush-a-rooney here, and then I'm going to cut my strings off, and I'm going to glue this directly to the bottom of the hat. Now, can you sew it? Absolutely. Whatever thread match the hat and sew it, or sew it on with whatever you use for the nose and then add a trim. But basically, this is going to protect the two things that I feel are going to get the most dirty, and that is the white fabric and the boopable nose. And then to display it, you just slip it on, making sure the nose is in place, and then tucking down, doing a much better job of matching up the seams than I did, just making sure that nose is tucked into place. And then for decorations for that guy, I just add a little holly and berries. But let me know down in the comments, what do you think of these? Will you make these? I like these for shelf sitters as well as tree toppers. Let me know down below which one is your favorite. Thank you for being here. As always, I sincerely appreciate it. Please like and subscribe for more crafty fun. Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandrainboots.com, and today I'm making a Dollar Tree gnome with some fun accents. If you would like to make it with me, just boop that big old nose and stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. It helps me a lot with this YouTube algorithm. I'm going to be making this guy, cutie patootie, 11 inches tall, and I'm going to give you the 411, which is information, on what doesn't work. You see this guy right here? He looks good on camera. Ooh, look at this muffler. But in person, after you cut it, it doesn't look good. I'm going to be honest. I know that there's a lot of crafters crafting with this. I was so excited to find this. But when I cut it, it didn't look great. This is your other option, is this microfiber cloth from the Dollar Tree automotive section. Let me know down below which one do you like. Which one do you think? I'm also going to be using these Dollar Tree booties, and I will give you an alternate for those if you can't find those. Alright, so I'm going to be using the 6.9 inch cone from the Dollar Tree. It's not really a cone because it has this like weird lopped off top. I'm going to be using something for a halo from the Dollar Tree, wire, a wreath, white crafter square felt, and I'm going to be using nylon stuffed, but you can also use a pom-pom, a wood bead, and you're going to use the templates, which are down below. Now here, choose a team. Let me know in the comments, which do you think is going to work? What do you think is going to work? And what do you think is going to make a hot mess and not look good in the end? I may be a little jaded. All right, so instead of what I'm going to do, you're going to use crafter square white felt to make the hat and to wrap the styrofoam cone. If in case you can't find these in the baby party favor section, use these. These are the boot ornaments from the Dollar Tree. They're so stinking cute. And Hobby Lobby has some, Walmart has some, Amazon has some. There's tons of them out there right now. Okay, so here, don't do this. I'm warning you. Oh, she did it. I now have crafter's hindsight. So it all goes terribly wrong. I'm gonna show you. All right, so here what I did is I ended up cutting, don't do this, cutting the backing away from the muffler to use as my wrap for my styrofoam cone. Do you need to do this? No. What did we talk about, class? Use the felt. It will produce the same look. You will need to go over it twice, just as you do with this, because the crafter square felt is pretty thin. But all you're gonna do is roll it. And the whole object is just to A, cover most of the cone, and B, make sure you get about a 1-inch lip of fabric all the way around the bottom edge, because we're going to cut that off and hide the bottom of our cone with it. That's it. Just roll. Look how easy this is. Look how simple. Look how unknowing we are about what is to come. All right, all I'm going to do here is straighten up this seam. I'm sorry, this edge, and then make a little seam. Do get your finger guards out, or this little face masky thing that I got at the Dollar Tree, or I actually got it on Amazon, but you can get it on the Dollar Tree. Protect your fingers. All right, glue that down, and then cut off the bottom. See that big like extra triangle there? I just cut it off into about a straight-ish line. And then you're just going to snip vertically into that fabric about every 3/4 of an inch or so. Look at that. And then glue those down. Now we have a nice finished edge. If you are not using booties, or you just want to make it really, really, finished, cut a piece of the felt and glue that right on that bottom as well. Glue down the top and then move on to the most tragic section of this craft. No, I'm kidding. So you are going to need a lightweight card stock, and I don't mean like regular card stock, I mean like crafter stock or lightweight cardboard. Just paint it white because we need it not to show the color. Because you have your white paint already, go ahead and paint your booties if you're using them. They have pink and blue, and both of them will need a coat of paint. I used my heat gun to keep this craft to about 15 minutes. It may be a 10-minute craft if you didn't make 4 pairs of wings like I did. All right, so once those are dry, you're just going to use something heavy and of a small but sizable piece, you need something weight in here. Don't put sand in here. Put in the rocks or the vase filler, those larger white rocks at the Dollar Tree. Just put a little hot glue, put a little rock, put a little hot glue, put a little rock. Just make sure your rocks are underneath that top edge of the booty, because that's how we're going to attach our cone. Looks good from back here, right? Look here. It doesn't look good at all. You'll see. I try and fix it. I'll waste a good 6 minutes or so of my life. All right, so here you can see it didn't look good with just the 2 layers. So I went through around the entire outer edge, tucking in the seam, covering everything up, and looks really good from back here, right? But if I told you and you brought this to me in person, I would be embarrassed that I shared it with you and didn't tell you. You're gonna have to do a lot of work to make that look good. But if you're like me and don't want to do all that work ever again, just cut out your template, add glue, and just stick it down on the chamois. Yep, just stay with me. This is my 4th set of these Dollar Tree wings, and I'm telling you, this one's the winner. So just glue it down, and then you cut a 1/4 inch allowance all the way around that outside edge so we can glue the edges together, hiding all the ugly seams. So now I'm going to put glue on the cardboard, but I'm also going to put it on that outer edge. And then I'm just going to flop it down on top. Turn it over, add your glue. Make sure you're getting those edges. And then flop it down on top. You see how easy this is? You see how no fluff has escaped? Look at my arms. That's after lint rolling, not once, not twice, but 3 times. All right, so once you have your 2nd layer, you just cut all the way around it. Make sure you've got all these pieces joined up and move on to your hat. You're gonna fold over the crafter square white felt 4.5 inches along that bottom. And then you're gonna measure 8 inches, make a little snip. And here's the trick to a nice cone hat. You're gonna go up about 1.5 inches. And then you're gonna cut from the top of that 1.5 inch cut all the way to your 8 inch cut up here. When you unfold it, well, actually, you don't even have to unfold it. Don't unfold yet. We're going to cut the rise. This is called the rise. Just cut it all the way back to the fold, and then you can unfold it and look at what you've got. You can cut off the top like I do into a flat mark. It's just easier when you flip it over. So we're just going to hot glue down. Be careful, this stuff is so thin that the hot glue goes through it. But you're just going to hot glue down that very long edge, leaving the bottom open. And once it has set, you're just going to turn the hat right sides out. And that's it. If you're covering the little booties, cut 2 6-inch wide by 1.5 inch tall pieces out of the white crafter's felt. Take your hot glue gun, spread that glue right in the middle of the bottom, and then add your booty just at the toe. Wait till that dries, and then just add glue all the way around this bottom edge. Make sure to add it right along the back, and then cut off the excess of one side so that you can wrap the other side, again adding glue only along the bottom, and joining it up so that you cut a straight-ish line, and then glue that in place in back. Now for the front, easiest way to do this, you've seen me do this in my gnomes shoes and boots pattern. We're going to press the center of the front right into this little divot after putting a piece of little dollop of hot glue. And then we pinch together the 2 front pieces, glue them in place, and trim off the back excess, and then glue down this back all the way around. And then what we're going to do is have a nice sturdy place to put our cone on and affix it easily. All right, look at those little shoes. Hello. All right, back over to this guy. We're going to slip on our hat just to make sure we get the measurements for everything. Put a little fluff in the top of the hat because the Dollar Tree is like more of a lobbed off cone than a cone. All right, so for the beard, I just kind of eyeballed, measured about a halfway around beard, and I cut out a square. I'm going to just fold that over and cut a sort of flattened U shape. Match up the very bottom of my beard to the very bottom of the cone, and then glue it on. Easy peasy, yeah? Whole lot less mess too. Slip on the hat, get your idea of how big you want your nose. I took a little bit of the microfiber towel, I put it into the nylon petty sock, wrapped it once, twisted it in a knot, wrapped it again, and then tied it off in a knot cut that excess off, and then I'm going to glue it straight to the beard. Near the top, I just wanted to be able to scrunch up the nose to get that look that I like. Add a little hot glue, give it an intense nose boop, and now fold over the brim of the hat and glue that right together and then onto the top of the hat. You don't need a lot of hot glue. This is really thin felt. If I haven't said that before, it's thin felt. So all I'm doing here is tucking down the edge of my hat and then securing that all the way around the gnome. All right, for the wings, I'm just going to trim off any of the microfiber right where I'm going to put the channel of hot glue to attach it to my gnome, just so we can make sure we have a lot of adhesion. And then I'm just going to attach it on back. I did end up gluing just the sides like kind of in a little bit, so it kind of like looked like they were pointed forward. Once that was set, I just put my little shoes together, put hot glue on the top and like kind of like where it would go inside so it doesn't goop out the edge. And then I just put my little gnome right on top. Like so. All right, I just used a little piece of gold wire, wrapped it around my paint bottle, twisted it right there, and then cut a longer stem so that I could just literally stick it into the entire back of this thing. So you can stick it into the fiber, you can stick it into the styrofoam cone, whatever you'd like. Here are the wings. These are the wings that I would recommend you do, which means 2 layers and then wrap all the edges. This is what it looks like if it doesn't get wrapped. I know it's hard to see, but it's so unfinished. It's piecey. I just think this is your better option. And he's pretty sweet. I think he's pretty sweet. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Also down below, sign up for our newsletter and get that free wing template. As always, I sincerely appreciate you being here. Like and subscribe, and hey, you should check out this playlist. Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandrainboots.com, and today we're making holiday gnomes with flower pot hats. If you would like to make them, just boop and boop. Stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. Now, if you happen to hear some snorting sounds, that's my sister's French bulldog. He's very loud. So here are these 2 cuties. I'm going to share the types of fur I use, the sizes of everything, and 2 ways to make them. All right, so the first supply we're going to need is from the Dollar Tree. Actually, most of this is from the Dollar Tree, and they're socks. These flower pots, 2.5 and 3.25 inch pots, are also from the Dollar Tree. I just painted them white. I'm going to be using a paint for the hats, a foam brush, and then any picks or ribbons or anything. These are both from the Dollar Tree. We're going to need a hot glue gun, some scissors, and something to cut your faux fur. You can also use yarn. So I get asked a lot about the socks with the little nubby things on the bottom. I don't know what they're called. They little plastic rubbery thingies so Sarah doesn't fall on the freshly mopped floors. All right, so this gold was a complete and utter failure. Don't know why, but it really would not stick. So I wiped it off and moved on to some red chalk paint from my little tiny pot. And this works really well. I think I'm going to stick with chalk paint when it comes to clay pots unless they're going outdoors. So I'm just going to wipe off the rest of the gold there and then cover this one in a white chalk paint as well. So let me know down in the comments below. I keep looking for Waverly chalk paint. I never really go to Walmart, but whenever I go, I look for Waverly chalk paint because that's where I used to get it. Now I can't find it. I don't know if it's sold out. Where do you get your Waverly chalk paint? This is, I don't know if it's Walmart brand. It's okay. All right, so now that you've got those painted, including the bottom and just on the inside of the hat, we're going to need something to stabilize. In my previous flower pot hat video, I shared using wood rounds because I had a million of them, but you can use jar lids, and you can also trace your flower pot onto cardboard and cut on the inside of that circle, and it works just as well. Also from the Dollar Tree, I grabbed some rocks for weight. These are just, I don't know, vase filler maybe. And then I'm just going to place the lid all the way down into the sock and make sure it's pulled up on the side. And then I'm going to grab my hot glue gun and kind of just pull down one side, hold it in place, and then I'm going to glue and then repeat that on the other side. And this is just so that they don't move around. This is a quick and easy craft. I mean, the longest thing it took me to do was paint, and I used my heat gun so that it would go really quickly. This was a fun one. My daughter really likes this one. By the way, she thinks these are the sweetest. All right, so once that's glued in place, we're gonna try and find the opening I made. I promise I thought I was prepared for this, but just going to be throwing a couple handfuls of weight into the sock. No rhyme or reason. I just wanted it to be pretty sizable because those clay pots are pretty heavy for their size. I'm going to be filling up quite a bit of this sock with polyfill because I do want a round, rotund gnome. If you don't want to buy polyfill from the craft store or on Amazon like I do, you can go ahead and go to Walmart or other big box stores, even Dollar Tree, and get their pillows and rip them apart. Okay, so I get asked a lot about when you know it's ready. If you squeeze it and it bounces back, that's enough stuffing. So we're going to make sure that we tie the knot just back of center so that we have this nice big sloped front, because again, our hats are going to be tipped back. So we want to decorate the nice big rotund front. It's going to sit like this, and it's going to kind of sort of lean back. All right. So I don't know, I just play with these things. We don't need all this excess, and I'm going to use it for something else, I'm sure, later, because my scrap bin is like literally overflowing. But I'm going to stiffen this part up a bit because our hat is actually going to be supported by this, so I'm going to glue it together. For the fur, I'm using Fabric.com Shannon Fabrics Luxe Yak fur in the color Vapor, and it's $40 a yard, but we don't buy it by the yard. We hit this little buy a $3 swatch button. That's how we work here. All right, so the great thing is you get this pretty sizable, 8 by 10, 10 by 10, I don't even know what it is. You can see it's a nice big cut, but the bad part is, look at this. There's a lot of fallout because they cut it with scissors, just like you get at the craft store. Keep all of that aside and use it to stuff a gnome later. I'm gonna use it on my next gnome. But that's the only drawback, is when they don't cut it with just cutting the fabric backing, it does shed quite a bit. So I'm gonna just cut it right off the edge here because there's just so much fallout and no long fur. This is a really long pile fur, and that's what we want it to look like. We don't want these hacked off pieces, right? Look, it's still coming off. I'll just pull it off there. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna just cut a sort of rounded off V. You can use a rectangle, you can use a triangle, you can use a rhombus. No one needs to tell you what shape to cut. Just make sure you're only cutting that fabric backing, and it goes a lot easier. You can use scissors. I find it to be tedious, so I like using an X-Acto knife or a razor blade, and look what you get. Ooh, gratuitous fur shot, pulling away this long, gorgeous fur. Enough of that. All right, so we're just gonna glue this right up onto our body, just about, I know, it's sort of like an inch lower than the top, because we do want the top to be covered, but I wanted a little bit of overhang down over the edge of the body. Again, personal preference. Gnome making is about what you want and about what you have on hand. I'm just here for some inspiration. We're going to glue that down, excuse me, glue that down, making sure it's secure on both the top and the bottom. And then we choose a nose. You can choose a wood round. You can choose a wood bead. You can choose a pom-pom. That one's too big. You can make one out of nylons, which I've showed on this channel before. All you're going to do, no matter what you choose, is use something to split the fur to its fabric backing. Add a generous portion of hot glue. If you are using a wood bead, go ahead and put it sort of at an angle where the bottom hole is covered by the fur. The top will be covered by the hat. I get asked about the chalk pastels. So these are the ones from the Dollar Tree. They're not the best, but they totally work. All you're going to do is warm it up and then add a little color and use your finger or a dry cloth to spread it around. It gives a nice little blush. You can also use these on fabric to get a little blush on cheeks if you're making gnomes with cheeks. So here's where you just put an inordinate amount of hot glue on the front of this thing, all the way up to that knot we tied. We're actually going to put a little bit more on the front of this gnome hat or gnome nose. And then what we're going to do is tuck it up under here and then flip the entire thing over and let gravity bring these two things together. Look at that. It's fate. They were meant to be together. And then we're just going to do the same thing on the sides. Flip it over, let gravity do the work. Flip it over, let gravity do the work. See, these are silly easy. I love these. You can get so crazy with them. You do not have to use sock bottoms. I've made a fleece bottom before. I did not try felt yet. So if you'd like to make a felt bottom with the sewing machine, you can. So I get asked a lot about these socks with the nubbies. Do not cut them off. You will cut a hole in your sock. So on the heel, I'm going to make a smaller one for my smaller hat. So I'm going to cut just under the heel. You save that other piece though, okay? So we're going to do the exact same thing as we did before. So I'm just going to sort of speed through this, and we're just attaching our little round to the bottom, making sure it sits flat, and then adding our weight and our polyfill. Now do grab a string or something to tie off, twine maybe at the top, because we won't have enough for a nice big knot, but we still need to create the crown that our hat will sit on, right? So here you go. You can see mine's a little too tall right now. It's obviously not fitting. So on the nubby things, somebody tell me what they're called. Use the comments. Tell me what they're called. I'm going to push the weight all the way to the front. I'm going to push the stuffing all the way to the front because I'm going to cover that up with the beard. If you don't want to do that, go the other way. And I mean, you can always hem this bottom if you'd like, but use the top of the sock, the ankle portion at the bottom, and then just cover it up with the other half of the sock. But I'm not going to do that because I need more scraps in my life. So I'm going to just make sure that this is solid. Again, the hot glue will make this become pretty stiff, and that's what we want. Again, this is how we're supporting our flower hat. For the beard on this one, I'm using Mongolian fur in frosted gray. I love it. I buy it in bulk from Shannon Fabrics on Amazon.com, but you can get it in a lot of different places. You can even get small cuts of this at some of the craft stores. So I'm just, again, cutting a long rectangle with an X-Acto knife, only cutting the fabric backing. Then I'm going to stick this over the front of those nubby thingies. And I'm going to show you, it doesn't cover it all the way, but the fur like hanging down will cover. All right, for the nose, my daughter requested a pom-pom, so I didn't have any tan or brown colored pom-poms, but here's a white one. And then we're following the same exact steps by putting a silly amount of glue on there and then using gravity to adhere it. So here's what we have. Now for decorations, use what you have. I ripped this off of those ski ornaments at the Dollar Tree. I ripped off the little bow and tied one from a white frosted ribbon. It's super pretty. I got it at Joann's when I needed rickrack for my gingerbread gnomes. And then for this one, I'm going to use the same ribbon and tie the same bow, but I'm going to use this sprig of, I mean, let's just say it's mistletoe. I'm not really sure what that is. It was pretty, so I used it. I cut off a few leaves, cut off a little sprig of the berries from the Dollar Tree pick, and then put the bow on top. And then I added another little sprig of berries right on top of that. And this is done. You see how quick and easy these are? I love these. A lot of people like talking about them and playing with them. They're quite solid. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments section. As always, thank you for being here. Please like and subscribe for more crafty fun. And here is a Christmas playlist for you. Hi there friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rainboots, and we're here with a real-time craft project making a Dollar Tree gnome topper. Boop! If you'd like to make him, stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. Now, this one is simple. All we're doing is we're taking a pre-made Christmas tree topper. This one is a snowman. I have a dowel cap, leftover Dollar Tree pillow, and a piece of a wreath pick. So all I'm going to do first is rip off anything that's bumpy. I just didn't like the cartoony kind of holly and berries up there, so I just ripped it off, and we'll be covering that in a second. All right, so you're done with that. The second step is just to wrap your cone to see if your material fits. Mine will in multiple pieces. This is why I have a massive scrap bin. I don't know if you all keep your scraps or if you're the type to stuff your gnomes with them, but anything like this I think that we keep. You know, it comes in handy even if it's, you know, for a tiny little package tag or something like that. All right, so all we're gonna do is wrap around the covering, and you can use faux fur, you can use loop yarn, you can use anything you have, minky fabric, even a thin plush fur that you could get from a pillow at one of the discount stores. anything you've got, but just make sure that you're putting it right up to the edge of the hat. So on this particular dollar store tree topper, we have a little bit of like give and leeway on the brim of that hat. So you'll see I'm going to use that to my advantage. Now you see that big old hole in the back? Don't worry about it. We will cover it in just a second. So I'm just going to finish hot gluing this stuff down. There we go. And you can brush it down with your fingers. These are the dollar store pillows that you can rip apart. They have them in a ton of colors. If you can't find them at your Dollar Tree, go look in the toy section. There's a lot of great furry stuff in the toy section. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little piece here in between where my big hole is, and then I'm just going to cut it off, and then I'm going to glue it down. There we go. And then the next step is just to pick everything up and make sure that you have it glued down everywhere, because we don't want it like falling off the tree. And you can go ahead and clean up the edges on the bottom as well. Again, these little pillows are, I've gotten a lot of use out of these little pillows, to be honest. All right, so this is a 1.5 inch dowel cap. You can use anything you have. Ping pong balls from the Dollar Tree are actually really great. Just either paint them or cover them with a nylon. And then I'm just going to hot glue it directly to the snowman, and then I'm going to glue the hat directly to the dowel cap so it doesn't go anywhere and it looks like that scrunchy little hat that I prefer. This step is optional. All right, the last step is to add on whatever decoration you want. I have a tiny little piece of, I don't know, cedar, pine, don't know. I stuck a berry on it, or a bell, I don't even know what that is. And then I'm just going to glue it to the, I tried to put the little pick part inside the hat, and then I glued it to the hat, and guess what? You're done. That was a real-time craft we just made in about 3.5 minutes. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for being here crafting with me, and happy holidays. Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandrainboots.com, and today I'm making this chunky monkey Dollar Tree gnome. He's cute and easy, and if you'd like to make him, boop, stick around. As always, please give this video a like so I know you're here, and it also helps me with this YouTube algorithm. So this guy is rock solid. He has minimal details. He's easy to make out of one Dollar Tree sock, and he's a lot of fun. So if you'd like to make him, this is what you're gonna need. I'm using it's a monkey, a stuffy from the Dollar Tree, and yeah, it's gonna be his beard. I'm also using the sand, it's vase filler from the floral section. I'm gonna be using wood rounds, but I did have pom-poms that I bought that I can't find from the Dollar Tree. I'm gonna show you how I use the mittens for arms and feet, and then I'm going to hack up just one of these Dollar Tree socks that do not have any grippers on the bottom. I'm also going to show you how to assemble the boot ornaments and options like that. I'm not going to use for this gnome, but I'm going to show you how, because I get a lot of questions about it. So for my nose, I'm going to use a wood round. You can use a paper mache round that you pull off other projects. Like I said, I bought a package of pom-poms at the Dollar Tree, but I can't find it. But I am going to start by pouring this sand into a simple zip top bag and securing that bag just like so. I'm going to make sure it has about 3 inches wide before I push out all the air. And then, as you can imagine, that's the weight and inside of our gnome. We're going to build the bottom so that the top of the bag acts as the fill for our hat. So yeah, you know the next step. We're just gonna tuck this into the sock and then bang it on the table. It's gonna look like a kettlebell of sorts. So before I get over there, I want to show you, I get asked a lot about the boot ornaments and about sock gnomes. This is literally how it's assembled. So I cut off the ornament tie for these boots, and then I would, if it were me making them, and I will make something with these boots, which I got at the Walmart here at the coast, I'm just going to separate the toes a little bit. And then I'm going to, any place that the boots touch each other after the toes are turned out, I'm going to hot glue that and secure it. And then it's super easy to build your gnome off of that. It's a nice strong base. I'm using the ornament tie from the boot ornaments as the way to tie off the top of this. You can use Dollar Tree twine. But the important part is that the plastic bag is in that tied portion. So it's sticking out the top. There's no sand in it. I'll show you in just a second, because we're going to find out where the top of that bag is and cut it off. You see it there? It has no sand in it, but it's going to help us have a little bit of structure. And to do that, I'm just going to glue the sock to the sock itself, and then also just encapsulate that little bag top inside. All right, so again, for those of you who wanted to know, this is exactly how it looks. It looks super cute, by the way. I'm not saying it doesn't. I just didn't want it for this. I want those for another project. All right, so this is the top of the sock we cut off. You can see there's the part we cut off down here, and then the part at the ankle. So we're going to hem the part we cut off, because I don't know if you can see it, all over my workspace and me are those little red floofs from cutting up this sock. So I'm gonna speed this up. No one wants to watch me burn myself, because I left my hot glue finger guards at home during my coastal crafting trip. Okay, so now I'm gonna use some Dollar Tree twine to create the top of my hat. So this is the part that I hemmed, and I'm just going to double knot it a couple of times, making sure the heel is in the back. Whatever you want to see, there's my heel right in the back, and the bottom is what's going to go, or the ankle part is what's going to go on top of our gnome. Now, I felt really bad about this, because if my daughter had seen this, she would have cried. But we're gonna just lop off the head real quick of this monkey and set that aside and just not look at it. And then we're going to cut off one side of the body. And the reason we're doing this is because this is going to be our gnome beard. We're just going to shape it right into an easy little piece. All this stuffing, save that for another gnome, you know, one with a taller hat. But I'm just going to speed this part up because it's just me cutting that off part. And the floof gets everywhere, by the way, because this is not high quality stuff. So what I'm going to do is cut off any bits that are protruding, because I want the top to be relatively even, and then I'm going to shape one side. So the trick here, don't cut it to a point, cut it to a little flat edge in the middle, because we're going to end up turning that up so we can just lock in all of these fibers. To get the other side, I just matched the two up and cut it off, put those aside to stuff something later, and do take the time to just kind of pull the side edges, there you go, just to avoid that stuff getting all over everywhere. That's it. And now we're just going to, I have red floof on my glue gun. Anyway, now we're just going to hot glue the sides of these. Be careful, because I did burn myself, because again, hot glue finger guards are at home, but this is really thin material. All right, so you're just gonna do that for the other side. I'm just going to speed that up. Okay, so this is what I have now, and it's gonna go right on the front of my gnome. That's it, super easy. I'm going to have a beard that sort of tucks down underneath, but if you don't want to lock it down, that's fine, you don't have to. I'm just gonna make sure all of the sides and the top are secure as well before I move on. See how quickly this comes together? I don't even know if it's been like 5 minutes yet, but I know he's super cute and he's heavy. He's very dense. He will never knock over. All right, so I'm putting the heel at the back, and then I'm going to be pulling down the hat below the booty, the gnome booty. There you go. All right, so again, my little twine strings are a little longer because I'm going to use those in just a second. To attach my nose, I'm using a wood round, so I'm going to split the fur to the fabric and then add a very generous portion of hot glue and then press that round into the front. Now, there is a way that you can use the sock in order to make the gnome nose. I've shared that before. I'll link that below. Okay, so for all the people asking me, I picked up these gloves at the Dollar Tree so I can show you this. I cut higher than the part that is already sewn together, and that will give me either feet or arms. And so what I do, I'm not going to attach them to this gnome, but I just put them on the sides, glue the top pieces together, and then hide those underneath the hat. And so it looks, well, let me put the hat on. It looks like this, Well, it would look like that if they were on the side. But the whole idea is you don't need to stuff these because usually on the smaller gnomes, they already looked quite full. But you can also tuck them under the base of the gnome and kind of splay them out for feet or plop it onto the boots like so. There you go. And by the way, this style looks really cute without the arms when you have it on the ornament. Oop, there they go. We're moving on. Okay, so before I did actually find these, I ended up bringing them to the coast with me, so yay. I'm going to go ahead and just secure the hat all the way around because I'm not using arms. I'm not going to use legs or the ornaments or the mittens as legs. So I'm just going to glue this all the way around. Careful because it is a thin material and you can definitely burn yourself. Ask me how I know. Do take a moment to put the front of the hat down right on top of the nose. Make sure all of the fur is pointing down so that it, sits nicely and covers up any of the sparse areas in the beard. And then just do that all the way around. There you go. See how far I'm pulling it back on in the back? All right, so now this part is just optional. I left those long strings there and then just glued this to the back of the star. And that just helped me bring in the wood of my nose. And look, here he is in all his floofy goodness glory. He's really small. He's so chunky and cute. And I love it that my daughter can make this with a low temperature glue gun. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think and what would you name him? As always, I appreciate you being here. And if you want more, here's a Gnomes playlist for you. Thanks for joining me. It's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots, and today we are making this adorable dollar store sock gnome. Now this is a very different way to make it using all dollar store supplies, and if you'd like to join us, stick around. Okay, so we're making this gnome very different than we normally do, and we got everything you're gonna need at the dollar store. So a mop, dry beans, twine, 2 sets of socks in fuzzy, 1 set of ankle sock, and some blush. And all we're gonna do is keep that dollar store bag, by the way, because we're gonna use it later. We're going to use the ankle sock to fill it up with beans, and we're going to determine how big we want it just by filling it up. And then we're going to cut off a little bit of that ribbed section because we won't need it, and we're going to stuff it inside the sock so that we can tie it off with some twine and make a little nose. Now you can use the teeny tiny rubber bands that you get at the dollar store as well, but as a viewer pointed out on one of our other gnomes, they do disintegrate over time, so we've now stopped using those for the most part. Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to have a little extra twine, tie off the top of that sock, and then put that aside for just a second. Pick up some blush. You can get it at the dollar store like we did, or whatever you have on hand, and then you're just going to dust, using the brush that comes with it, just dust the gnome nose, and you can make it as pink as you want it, or just give it a little tiny bit of color. We made it quite pink. Okay, so now pick up that gnome body and measure-ish about how tall you need for the bottom cover of our gnome. So you can see here, we're not going to glue this down yet, okay? So just tuck it up under there and wait. Next up, we're going to determine how high we want our hat. And all you're going to do is you're going to shove that dollar store bag right up the top. You can add some polyfill, but just the bag works as well. And again, don't glue anything down yet. Moving over to our mop, we're just going to cut off some strands, and then we're going to use a tiny piece of the rest of the black fuzzy sock we used, and we're going to attach individual pieces directly to this. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to build on this, and we're going to build it in multiple layers, just like a real beard would be. And you can see here we're just going above and below the other strands so we can really fill it up. And then you're going to untwist the mop. It's super easy to do. You can do it while watching television, but look how full it becomes. Very, very full. And then what you're going to do is you're going to tuck that up under the nose and then just fill in the little space between that with just individual strands so it really looks like a mustache. And then you go ahead and glue everything down. So you're going to pull up the back and glue the black sock down, and then you're going to glue the red hat down. And then all we did is just decorated it with some twine. So what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Please like this video, subscribe to Ruffles and Rain Boots, and enjoy some more crafty fun. Hi friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots, and today we're making a 5-minute clay pot snow gnome craft. Oh my goodness, that's a tongue twister. So we're just going to be making this little cutie. As you can see, he's got his little snowman arms. There's some legs tucked into there too. And if you would like to make him with me, just boop, stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. It helps me in the algorithm. So as you can see here, we're using a very simple hat. I have pipe cleaners and fleece from the Dollar Tree. I have a scrap of faux fur, and you can even make it with the legs. I used pipe cleaner and wood beads. So we're gonna start with a 4-inch clay pot, and this one's really banged up, which is why I'm gonna be using it for this. I'm gonna start with a layer of white acrylic gesso. You can use white chalk paint, spray paint, anything you've got on hand, just paint that bad boy white. Now it does take a couple of coats because it's clay and it will suck it up, so if you want to seal it first, you can. I hit it with my heat gun just for a few minutes so that would dry very quickly and I didn't have to wait. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do it with a second coat of this acrylic gesso, and while we're waiting for that to dry, go to rufflesandrainboots.com, head over to this little search icon and type in snowman. You're gonna find a whole bunch of crafts and goodies that you can make for the holidays. Also there, go ahead and search gnome and see what you come up with. All right, so back to this fun guy. We're going to use a Dollar Tree infinity scarf that I got last year. You only need a little bit of it, so I'm going to wrap it around where I want the hat to be, and then I'm going to add an inch. So if you would like to have a very loose hat, add 1/2 inch for the seam and then 3/4 of an inch for the like just the beard and nose and everything underneath. All right, so I'm going to use 2 1/2-inch beads for our feet along with pipe cleaner. You can use rope, and then I'm also going to use a brown pipe cleaner to make arms. First step is I'm just going to make him a cute little brim for his hat, so I'm going to tuck that up, and then I'm going to put the right sides together and make a sort of cylinder, and that's going to be our hat, the whole thing. I'm using a Sure Bonder fine tip glue gun, highly recommend it, with just regular glue, not fabric hot glue. To make the feet while the hat dries, I'm just going to cut my pipe cleaner in half, thread it through the bead, and twist it so it doesn't come off. If you have kids or pets that might get this, go ahead and secure those on with hot glue. Well, now that your pot is dry, you're just going to position your legs. I'm going to fumble mine a bit there. You're just going to position your legs and glue them on the inside of the pot. So this was a suggestion by my 9 3/4-year-old daughter. And like I said, you can display them with the legs or without. The Dollar Tree rope, the thinner one, would be super cute here too. You could see it a little bit better than the white pipe cleaner. It was funny, we did this and then said to ourselves, hey, snowmen don't have feet, but you know, it's whimsical. All right, so now that your hat is completely dry, you're just gonna be scrunching up the top and tying it with twine or embroidery thread, whatever you can get your hands on. That's it. And because I did cut my hat high, it's going to build on itself, so you don't even need any stuffing. It's pretty nice. I secured that with glue and tied it off, and cut off the strings. So I had an extra piece of this little, I don't know, 3-inch or so scrap. So I'm going to cut a 2-inch wide by 1-inch high piece of faux fur, pull off any excess, and I'm actually going to split that in just a second because I realized I only wanted a mustache. I painted a wood round orange, which I had to make because I apparently have no orange paint in my entire craft room. And here you go. While that's drying, I am going to split this in half, and I'm just going to layer it. Now this allowed me to have a lot of room for his buttons, which is what I wanted. So all we're going to be doing is splitting this with our fingers. You don't have to be all technical, but we're going to be layering it on top of one another. In order to do that, we're just gonna make sure we get a bit of hot glue right on our pot, and then put your one layer down. And then you're gonna add hot glue not only to the top of that fur, but just over the top of that fur, because you're gonna squish it down and sort of push it up over that first layer. And that way everything is hidden and you don't see the ugly bits. I'm gonna use a dog brush, because of course, to split this down the middle to the faux fur backing, which we'll need in just a minute. But before we get to that, grab a Sharpie, or here I'm using a Posca paint pen, and make 3 circle-ish shapes. for buttons. Be sure to keep your fur out of the way so you don't have to do any touch-ups. And then fill those in and let those dry. If you are using a Sharpie, it's going to go a lot easier for you than a Posca. Posca takes a bit to dry. So here I am back from lunch with my very dry guy, and now I'm just going to start building him like we would build any other gnome. So you can see my little hat there has no stuffing, but it really holds itself up well. In order to attach the nose, we're just going to split the fur to the fabric backing, put a generous portion of hot glue there, and press our bright orange nose right into it. Once that's dry, I'm going to add some hot glue to the top of the nose, pull down the hat over the top to get the scrunch. I'm going to tuck down that hat everywhere else that I want him, and I'm not going to glue him down yet because I want to make some arms, so I only glued down the back. To make my arms, I just cut a bright brown pipe cleaner in half. I made a little bit to tuck up under the hat and then twisted one end down into 2 pieces for his hands. You could also use like wood beads or a stick from your yard, whatever. It's about using what's in your craft room, Sarah. Sorry. All right, I tucked those up under there. I'm going to glue them, and I'm also going to glue pieces of the hat so I can keep that puff in place all the time. So it doesn't matter what I move, how I move it, I'm going to have that puff. And here he is with his cute little puffed hat, his bright orange nose, and his buttons. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think? Would you make this with a little wonky clay pot? As always, thank you for being here. Please like and subscribe for more crafty fun. Hi, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rainboots, and today we are making a very quick witch hat door gnome. Now, you all challenged me with a dollar store or a Dollar Tree gnome, boop, for your front door, and here's what I came up with. If you'd like to make him, stick around. Now, if you're here, please hit that like button so I know. And we're going to start out with a dowel cap in 1.5 inch, a witch hat, and a pick from the Dollar Tree. And also from the Dollar Tree is a pillow. If you can't find it, mop heads or dusters work. Now, the trowel I'm using is because I didn't see these, okay? Because they're cute and they're in some Dollar Trees. And if you can't find them, these adorable little placemats are super cute as well. So if you can find those, again, there's a lot of different fabrics available at the Dollar Tree. And the first part of this project is going to be demolition. It's my favorite of any DIY ever when using stuff. So there is a warning I have to say, this tinsel stuff is ridiculously messy. So go ahead and kind of clean that up as best you can. All right, so the first step is to take your towel and just outline it generally with a generous seam allowance. I'm gonna be cutting off so you can see, don't cut it too close because we can always fix it. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna tack down one side, whatever side you want. I chose the top, and then I started folding over the edges. And you can see there's a lot of extra there. Don't worry, just snip it off. There you go. And we're just going to snip it off and then glue any of the pieces that flip up down, because I wanted it to be relatively flat against the door. So all we're going to do is just repeat this all around. Not gonna bore ya, just stick it on. And you may have to cut it in some places to get the look of the hat. And then we're going to take our Dollar Tree pillow or duster or mop, whatever you'd like, and we're going to rip it apart. So these are not the highest quality, just so that you know. So they're easily ripped. So what I did was I cut a smaller square of this furry plushy fabric with some big scissors because those little ones weren't working. And so I just cut a square. And the reason I cut a square is because you're going to need a little bit of weight at the bottom, okay? So don't cut a beard shape. We want the weight at the bottom to sort of keep that beard in place. And then you just run your hands along the edges to get those extra pieces off. And then you see how I folded it over? We're just going to fold it over and make a beard. And we're just going to glue it to the backing. Again, not the most luxurious material, but it takes a glue gun, okay? It takes the hot glue easily and it forms a beard easily. So again, these are great finds if you can find the pillows. If you can't, use a 2 of the dusters. So you would actually have to use multiple dusters or one of the mop heads. And you can glue the strands of the mop head to the back of the hat. So here we are with our beard shape. And look at that, all that cleanup I have to do. My goodness, it's so messy. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna flip it over and we're gonna hot glue it directly to the back of our Gnome hat. See, this is like real time. Like, this is such a fast project. All right, this is perfect for the back door, right? Because it's festive, but it's not too Christmassy. So all I did is I took that 1.5-inch dowel cap and I glued it right up under the towel part of the hat. And then I'm just gonna glue down the towel right to the top of the nose. And that's going to give us a little teeny tiny scrunched look. There you go. And now for the last little part, you're going to attach your hanging piece again, by the way. And then you're also going to attach whatever decoration you want. This is a pick that I just poked through because it had a little wire thing. I twisted it around, and guess what? We're all done. Isn't he cute? Boop. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks so much for being here with me. Please like and subscribe to Ruffles and Rain Boots for more crafty fun. So that is it for me today. What did you think of all of these Dollar Tree gnome crafts? I have many, many more on rufflesandrainboots.com, but I didn't want the video to be too long, so pop on over and check that out. Thank you so much for being here. Please like, please share this, and please subscribe for more crafty fun.